Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Season 6, Episode 5 of the phenomenon known to all as Saturday afternoon's main event. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, today is just not any other regular episode. Of course, yes, it's Episode 5. You would consider it another regular episode, Yeah, you kind of do make sense on that. I digress. The person that actually keeps count of the I digresses, they can actually write that in. But today is Summerslam, okay? Ladies and gentlemen, today is Summerslam. We have tons of matches on the card. We have many speculated returns, surprises. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the day that we celebrate the culmination of summer. This is what we have as wrestling fans, ladies and gentlemen. It has been dubbed the biggest party of the summer for nearly 3 decades. And now we're sitting here about to witness maybe one of the much more better SummerSlams of the modern era. So look, we have a lot to be grateful for today. But for me, if I have to say what I'm grateful for, I'd have to say my co-host, the one who helps me carry this show as well. And ladies and gentlemen, I know you're asking where he's at. He's right here, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to the limousine riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing son of a gun who's not having a hard time holding his alligators down. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, give me 2 claps and a peep stage.
Woo! Yes, we are here. I am here. Saturday afternoon's main event once again is here. And I can't think of a better way to spend a Saturday afternoon with the fans watching our show, with my partner who is instead waiting for all of this wrestling knowledge. And let's get it going because we got some really good stuff. Full wrestling day, SummerSlam today, Collision today. Oh, full wrestling weekend. And when was the last time you heard about that? A full wrestling weekend on a Saturday.
Peace. God love us. We're eating. We are eating well, man.
Yes.
We are eating well. For God's sake. As Peeps said, let's not waste no time and get right into it. And of course, the first way we get right into something is when we hear that. When we hear that, ladies and gentlemen, that means it's time for one thing and one thing only. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Wrestling Crash Course. Peeps, should we start?
Let's do it.
Okay, first and foremost, let's go ahead and cover one man and one man in particular, Paul Heyman. Ladies and gentlemen, if you watched ESPN's First Take, or should I say, listen. Let me put it this way. If you're dumb, stupid, or blind, you don't have cable, you don't keep up with ESPN, you wouldn't know that you're able to watch it on YouTube. But if you don't have internet as well, sucks to be you, but I digress. But
well, we're starting with 2 of them already?
Second one, for God's sakes, how do we do it, Peeps? How do we do it?
That puts us at 95. Yes. Right. So, yeah.
Not even 3 minutes in, man. That tells you. But, truth be told, if you watched First Take at the beginning of the week, you would know that Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns were on the show. Within them being on the show, Stephen A started talking to Paul at first, and he was like, you know what? Before I direct my attention to our tribal chief, let me go ahead and speak to Paul Heyman. Paul, we know most definitely that you're probably one of the better managers of the modern era. And Paul's sitting there with the old versions of the titles on his shoulders. He says, oh, undisputed, I'm the GOAT. I sat there, I got a kick out of it. I was like, you know what? Hey, listen, run with it, Paul. I don't have a problem with it. I don't.
You'd expect nothing less.
Exactly. And then Stephen A kind of showing his wrestling knowledge, as much as I hate the guy since he talks bad about the Knicks so much. And then he hops on the bandwagon the minute they get to be good. But you know what? For this, he brought up Bobby Heenan. And for that, I sat there and I said to myself, oh, a seasoned wrestling fan. How nice. But not only that, he said it in such tone of moderation and revereness. That means that he was really saying that above anything else, Bobby Heenan is here. And that's how it is for almost all of us. So he goes ahead and he mentions Bobby Heenan, and instantly Paul Heyman shuts him down and says, "Oh, screw him, he's dead." And then he proceeds to say, "And Jimmy Hart's still alive, which shows you that God doesn't answer my prayers." You're a Jew! Why say that? Have mercy!
Oh boy! Oh boy!
Holy
Yeah.
crap. So, of course, Paul is the type of person that likes to work the fans.
Yes.
Even if it means traveling to another realm of sports to continue to work them. And of course, Stephen A was eating out of the palm of his hands because Stephen A just sat there and everything. When he literally said, "Oh, screw him, he's dead," all you heard from Stephen A was, "Oh wow."
Yes, the look on his face was priceless. He was like,
"Oh."
Yeah. He caught the vapors after that one.
I definitely was expecting Stephen A to go ahead and get out the "stay off the damn weed," but he didn't
exactly.
Get it. But I sat there and even Roman was eating out of it. He was just like, yeah, screw Bobby Heenan.
Yes.
Yeah. Paul's gonna speak. I just like, so if that's the case, as much as he's working the fans,
yes,
it's now the right time to begin adding Paul Heyman up top that Mount Rushmore list of managers.
Oh, without question.
Is it begin to start revering him as Bobby the Brain Heenan 2.0? Although he doesn't need to be a second Bobby the Brain. He's already Paul Heyman. But
yes.
if anything, if we're going to have to start talking top 3, top 2s, I think Heyman could be implemented into it now. I'm not going to lie to you.
Yes. There are, in the realm of professional wrestling, whatever era you look at, we know that going into the presentation of, especially of a heel, because most managers are managing a heel wrestler, usually either to enhance that talent or just to take over in the sense that maybe the talent that they're representing is great in the ring, but doesn't really talk well doing promos and doing promotional spots. So they have that person as the mouthpiece, i.e. somebody like Bobby Heenan, Jim Cornette, Paul Heyman, Jimmy Hart, Gary Hart. I'm going on and on and on. Sir Percival Pringle, who we all know as Paul Bearer, as The Undertaker. I saw him even before he got to the WWF and became even more of a legend than he was even when he was in World Class and in the GWF and doing Sir Percival Pringle. Even to the wrestlers that were managers that became managers and wrestled at the same time. Roddy Piper did the same thing. Mr. Fuji, great manager. So we can pull out lots and lots of names of guys that were wrestlers and became managers. Ray the Crippler Stevens, guys that were really great in ring, but they were great talkers. They knew to get underneath the skin of the wrestling fan just enough that you would go and spend your hard-earned money on a ticket. Why? Just to see that wrestler get his clock cleaned. And we are seeing that so often. And even going into the realm of women managers, such as a Medusa Michelli, who, even though she was a wrestler, she did become a valet, et cetera, et cetera. Somebody like Missy Hyatt, somebody like Baby Doll, somebody like sensational Queen Sherry. And it goes on and on and on. The whole point of it is there is a specific science to this. And only a handful of people are gifted enough to be revered and remembered in such a light that they can be remembered for their in-ring work and also be remembered for how they became managers, how they talked. And in some ways, managers did more than just talk and present and, kind of talk about why the match that they're speaking of is going to draw money. They legitimately did book hotels for the wrestlers and get them straightened up for flights back and forth between shows and maybe driving them from the airport to the hotel and then back to the gym because that's what a lot of managers did back then. But Paul Heyman is on another level. Paul Heyman has been on another level since the first time I personally saw him. He's been doing this since way before he was an actual manager. He was doing, in a lot of instances, he was doing what Jim Cornette was doing, which was taking pictures. He was getting into the business from that sense. Is like certain pictures would go to the wrestling magazines, but also Paul Heyman was doing promotional work before he got into the wrestling business. And for a lot of people that don't realize, Paul Heyman actually worked at Studio 54 way back in the 80s, which was a prominent nightclub in Manhattan back during the 80s, and they've done movies on it, and we all know what kind of stuff happened at Studio 54. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine the clientele that came in. But the reason why I bring that up is you have to have a background in communication. You've got to have a quick wit. You've got to be able to know what works and what doesn't, and also be a showman and know what works, how it works, and present that to everybody that's looking at that particular talent. And Paul Heyman, especially his last 20 years, has taken, as far as I was concerned, a Hall of Fame career. And all he has done is taken a dirty diamond and completely shined it and cleared it up, and then has put it in an even bigger crown. And now we are here to see it all. And it seems like the older Heyman gets, the better he ages. Like a fine wine, everybody's taking a sip of the bubbly when it comes to Paul Heyman.
Most definitely correct on that, peeps. And honestly, yes, begin looking at him in that light. But please don't, when you bring Heyman up, please don't downcast Bobby the Brain Heenan for me, because that, I'm telling you, as much as I knew that was a work, it still kind of struck a chord with me. I was just like, damn, how harsh, like how harsh, how rude can you be? And the funny thing is, Peeps didn't even watch that part until after I told him about it, because Peeps like came in actually a couple of minutes after Heyman said it. And when I texted Peeps, I was like, Peeps, are you watching? He was like, oh, I just started watching. I'm like, did you see what Heyman said? He was like, what did Heyman say? And the minute I told him, the only thing Peeps said to me, wow. That should tell you enough. Because listen, guys, we know how much Peeps reveres Heyman and Ric Flair, both in the same capacity. So trust me, we both got a kick out of it. But please, Heyman up top, most definitely. But speaking of up top, let's go ahead and move into the debut of the Wall Street Profits, or how people call it, the Suit Profits.
Yes.
If you watched this past Friday night, literally last night, you would know that Angelo Dawkins and Montez Ford are not turning a new leaf in the sense of being heels. But in the sense of being heels, they're still being cheered.
Yes.
Because we just love this. You would think that you wouldn't want to see these guys in the Hurt Business. We saw it coming. We just wanted to know in a matter of how long and how they would bring them in. And honestly, if I had to sit there and I had to think, Peeps, these guys need to take the titles off KO and Sammy. I'm telling you now. I'm just saying. Listen. I'm just telling you now. That's just me. Because the fact that the tide has changed. Definitely the tide has changed. These guys are now elite. No pun intended. But these guys are literally it. Like, as much as we know they were good as heels, and we thought they probably would have broken them up, i.e. Vince McMahon. But thank God it didn't happen. Because now them siding with Bobby Lashley and now creating the Hurt Business, in which hopefully sooner or later we see a Carmelo Hayes in there, a Trick Williams. See it fully change for the better. If it's like that, Peeps, I'm all in. I'm really all in.
Yes.
Because the thing that they're doing now is like they're adding factions to the show that are need be. We've all said, okay, look, Judgment Day have their own faction. The Bloodline is slowly, like, it's starting to go ahead and change up. It's starting to not be there anymore. And what better way than to add a faction to SmackDown in a sense like this? And what if at SummerSlam, since we have our women's champion in Rhea Ripley on the Judgment Day, why
I think I see
not
where you're
have
going with this.
Bianca Belair join the Hurt Business, turn heel in the process, and become women's champion? Peeps, it's business is booming. That's how I'll see it. What do you think?
First and foremost, we talked about this about 6 months ago. And I said that it would be great if they reformed the Hurt Business and they brought in the Street Profits. They maybe kept a reinvigorated Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. And then they added Carmelo Hayes to the entirety of it. Maybe throw in Trick Mello, get that team going, and bring them in with Bobby Lashley as the face of the group. And maybe you have MVP as the mouthpiece. But depending on who you talk to or what you're looking for a faction, maybe that would be too many bodies within one faction. Okay, if that's the case.
What if you just go ahead and leave NXT and NXT? What if you have Trick and Carmelo join the Hurt Business, but they're just in the NXT syndicate of the Hurt Business?
So kind of like a subsidiary sitting in NXT. I see where you're going.
Exactly.
Especially since if you watched NXT, they kind of split Trick and Mello away from each other, because now Carmelo on his own doesn't necessarily need, because he's a face, he doesn't need to have somebody that's quote unquote a hanger on, somebody that's going to interfere in his matches, that kind of thing. And they kind of did an amicable split where it's like, well, Trick got to do his own thing. I got to be able to get my own career going, because at some point, and he kind of alluded to this, that Carmelo is going to go to the main roster at some point. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens before the year is out.
Oh, definitely.
Maybe by WrestleMania. Who knows? But at some point between now and April, I think Carmelo is going to be on the main roster, whether it's on SmackDown or Raw. So that being said, they've got to get Trick Williams and build him up on his own, because he's got the physique, he's got promise, and he's definitely know he can talk.
Exactly.
So now we go to the main roster and we talk about the Hurt Business, or whatever they're going to call themselves. I dubbed them yesterday, I called them the Suit Profits, because they almost came in like the Horsemen and laid waste to everybody. The Brawling Brutes were literally destroyed. They took off their jackets, they beat everybody up. Pete Dunne jumped on D'Angelo. D'Angelo just chucked him off. They all got beaten down. They leave the ring. And what do? Put the suits back on. They're all sweaty. They're all... and just walked about their business. Now, the crazy part about this
that gave me Arn and Tully vibes. I'm not going to lie.
Yes.
I really...
Heel tactics. Heel tactics with face reaction. And that's something I don't think they were anticipating, because as soon as Lashley came out, Bobby Lashley came in his suit, his sunglasses, and they got 15,000 fans chanting, "Bobby, Bobby." So they cheered for Bobby, and they cheered. Yes.
We just wanted it. Truth be told, we just wanted it. We've been waiting for it.
Yes.
We've been anticipating it. And the fact that it happened, because at first, you see, even Hot Rod brings it up. Hot Rod's like, were you guys shocked that the crowds were cheering for the Wall Street Profits? No. Truth be told, no, because I was cheering as well. The minute the guys came out, I was just like, oh, I see where this is going. I see. And they panned out, after the replay, they panned out to them on the stage, and out of nowhere, you see Bobby Lashley coming out. Yes. And I had the biggest grin on my face. And with the three men side by side, you saw Angelo to the side, kind of smiling while looking at the fans.
Yes.
And it was just like, I know what he was thinking in his head. He was like, yo, we're so over his heels. Like, damn it, we're good. And honestly, I can understand why. It's amazing. It's just amazing. And I'm telling you, if it's like what I think will happen, and even with Dodgy's in the cut, Dodgy's like, yo, here's my boys. Appreciate
There you go.
Haven't seen you in a fat minute. He says, look, Bianca is winning the title because she's joining the Hurt Business. Make it like a Bullet Club. Hurt Business on Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. And he's like, could you imagine if Lashley has a face, MVP makes a heel, and it's like NWO versus NWO Red and Black. So look.
Intriguing.
If it was, if that was the case, MVP on his own stance in Raw, Bobby Lashley on his own stance in SmackDown. Peeps. What if? Because Dachi makes a good point. What if War Games is Battle of the Brands, but in the stance of the Hurt Business?
That would be interesting. But I don't want to put the cart ahead of the horse. Because that's a bit too far ahead.
That's a bit too far. We're not even close to November yet.
The possibilities are, and this is the reason why these kinds of factions work when you're not using a lot of the talent. You get to group the talent together. You get to put them in something meaningful. And then you go ahead and say, well, look at what they're doing. And this faction would take the TV attention away from what is left of Damage Control, because Damage Control, between the injuries and whatever they've been doing, that completely fizzled out. You've got a hot new faction that can potentially do something here that the fans can get behind, whether they're heels, whether they're faces, whether they're tweeners, whatever they do. The fans are obviously receptive to them being there. We are receptive to them being a team, and everybody's receptive to the fact that they're finally freshening these guys up. Lashley didn't need a freshening. He just needed a break so that they can reintroduce him and then get this thing going, because they should have never broke up the Hurt Business initially in the first place. This is I don't want to say consolation prize, because I think this is that would be an insult. I think this is more of the evolution of what the Hurt Business can be, where they've gotten younger, they've gotten more attention to the group. And we don't even know what's going to happen afterwards, because they've been teasing this and building this for about a month. So let's see what they do now. As SummerSlam is tonight, I tell you, if they do bring in the Hurt Business the way we think they are, and Bianca joins and she wins the championship and she can go ahead and parade that, boy.
Peace.
And think about it. They've only
Black version of Evolution. Don't continue to make me salivating. We haven't even gotten through the last two parts of Worse Than Trash.
But see, here's the other thing that I think will work, and I think this is what they do. They have kind of on screen alluded to the fact that Montez Ford and Bianca Belair are married. They've been married for years. They've never really on screen gone fully as far as that goes. So why not now, since they're heels, talk about that? And then Bianca can talk about, well, the only reason why we're together is I'm only with winners. He's a winner. He's won championships. I'm a winner. I main evented WrestleMania. And that's the reason why all of us are together, and we're going to win together.
So peeps. Are you saying you're gonna bring in some type of Booker T, Sharmell type storyline within those two individuals?
You mean King Booker? Yes. King Booker. Yeah. I'm telling you. I think if they do this the way I'm envisioning it, and I think a lot of the fans that are watching the show and both of us are, if they can do it in that sense, they can go places with this. I think that we're looking at the potential of something really, really fun on the horizon. Let's just hope that they build it right, and then it doesn't fizzle out like we've seen many other factions in this company fizzle out.
Definitely. You're definitely right on that, peeps. The Phenom says, I'm glad they didn't break up the Street Profits. There's another evolution of them. I think this is going to be good. We're right behind you on that, man. Yes. We all want to see this success of the Street Profits. We want to see the success of Bobby Lashley. If Bianca joins, we want to see the success of Bianca. Finally, the heel version of Bianca Belair from NXT days is now back in the main roster.
Yes.
Peeps, for God's sakes, let me stop because we need to get to SummerSlam first. So let me not even. But speaking of premium live events / pay-per-views in the month of August, we have another one that's going to be heading down the line on the 27th. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now been announced that now on pay-per-view, okay? Mm-hmm. So peace, we're not going to have that issue no more.
Okay.
On Bleacher Report's pay-per-view app, All In at Wembley will take place on August 27th, and the main event will be MJF versus Adam Cole for the AEW World Heavyweight title. Beeps!
Mm-hmm.
I just know, and I just sense Doctor of Thugonomics already salivating, and I already know what his comment's gonna be. So I'm just like, look, it's amazing. But within this, it's crazy how they've turned this whole thing around. Because we sat there and we really thought on Saturday that they were going to break up. We thought it was once again going to happen on Wednesday. The funniest thing to me was that, okay, now that I look at it that way, now I want to go ahead and start booking my fantasy finish. And I only see it ending two different ways.
Okay.
One, okay, look at it this way, peeps. MJF gave Adam Cole the contract. He told Adam Cole, "Oh, you get to face me at all in for the world title. Here's the contract." Right? Peeps. Adam Cole didn't even look at the contract. He didn't read it. Just picked it up and signed the damn contract.
Mm-hmm.
So now the match is going to happen at All In.
Okay.
Whatever it is, that the third. Adam Cole ends up winning the match.
Okay.
Crowd is going crazy at Wembley. He's about to pick up the world title. MJF gets the mic and MJF says, "Hey, bud, congratulations. I'm happy that you beat me, whatever the case may be. But here's the thing, bro. You didn't read the fine print in the contract."
Okay.
And the contract itself reads that it was just a regular singles match with a 50 or 60-minute time limit.
Oh, Lord.
And MJF continues to have the title, but he's just like, "But I just wanted you on the main event. So I got you a main event match. Isn't this great?"
And you want to know what would happen? All 77,000 fans would rush the ring and beat all of them up. They would hate that finish.
Definitely. But for me, it's not even that. The second one is Adam Cole is coming close to finishing the story. See what I did there?
Yeah, there you go.
Then, out of nowhere, Roderick Strong, who has been having issues with his best friend, costs Adam Cole the title.
You see, we're on the same page of that because I'm pretty sure Roderick Strong is going to be involved in that somehow.
It's either that or the Kingdom. Because we know the history with the Kingdom as well. And we know how they feel about Adam Cole going ahead and, being side by side with MJF. And kind of being best buddies and kind of having that face persona. So look, there's a lot of it. But you know what? Peeps, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at it from the perspective of this match will sell. Being that it's the first match announced for All In, this match will sell. What do you think?
Well, first and foremost, for those that didn't see the match that they had a month ago on AEW Dynamite, about a month ago, that match was candidate for match of the year. It was really that good. Now it's up there. It's definitely not FTR versus Juice Robinson and Jay White, but it was up there as far as championship matches or a match that would give him a title shot or get close to winning a championship. So I say this to preface the thought process that the people that are in Wembley that have paid to see this without even knowing what was on the card, those finally like, wow, we waited all this time to finally find out what's going to be the main event. First of all, what's going to be on the card. And the first thing that they announce is Adam Cole, MJF, World Championship match. And that is going to be, without question, one of the great matches, I think, that those fans will see this year. Uh, I'm kind of I'm kind of hoping that we would get an Osprey Omega undercard match. I don't know if that's going to happen, but as they announce these matches, because they still got a few weeks to go.
Exactly.
But this and the way it's been built, and think about this. From the time that they built this whole thing where he deserves a title match, he wants to get a title match, and he didn't get the title match, but then they did the tag team eliminator tournament thing that they were doing. The fact, and this goes to show you how brilliant Cole and MJF are as far as just getting things going and booking, and it probably might be a little more MJF and collaboration with Adam Cole. How they built the psychology of them not liking each other, but being in a tag team situation and making it work, starting from we don't trust each other to you're not that bad of a person. Their mutual dislike of Tony Schiavone, which turned into a bonding moment, which then turned into, you know what? I think we're not that bad as a tag team. Turning that into, we should get t-shirts made, to getting our own tag team ring music, to going and having a finishing move and getting over a double clothesline. I want you to think about that. They went from hitting each other's guts over the championship to being best friends. And now we see those friends going in, and MJF has sold that character so perfectly. I had this disorder where I was always afraid that people were going to hate me and they didn't like me, and all of the discrimination that he went through as a child, being Jewish, and hearing all of the epithets getting thrown at him, and you can't do this, and his teacher saying you're not going to do that. And he touched on that during his CM Punk feud, some of the things that he went through. And then it shows he's got range. So here we go now, this way. And the other thing that I was hoping that I would see, I'm not sure it's going to happen, but if we remember the faction that MJF was part of in MLW, I was always of the mindset that he was going to start up his faction again in AEW at some point and see what was going to happen there. Not going to happen. For those that didn't know about MJF, he was part of a faction. His partners were tag team champions in MLW.
I know what you're talking
Hammerstone.
about. I think it's what was it? It was the Dynasty, I think.
Yes, the Dynasty.
That's what it was. Yeah.
And all of those people that saw what he could do there know what he can do now. And if that was going to be the case, I was under the impression that was going to happen. But I am really looking forward to this match, more so than people think, because Adam Cole deserves to have that kind of match, that kind of attention. And based on the year and a half that he's been in AEW, that he's had pushes stalled because of injury, this is something that he deserves. MJF being world champion, this is what he deserves, to go out internationally and show everybody what he can do in front of a huge crowd. I can't wait.
Peeps, listen, it's going to be golden. That's all we can say. Speaking of golden, Hot Rod says this: breaking news, Peeps Nate is giving away free PS5s and AEW Fight Forever games. Just show up at his location. We're not having this turn into another Kaisen at Union Square.
No.
This is not going to be it. Please, ladies and gentlemen, do not listen to Hot Rod. Or should I say to Hot Roos? He's just going ahead and discouraging you guys to riot at Peep Stage's house. We are not inciting insurrection, okay?
Not gonna happen.
Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. But from here, we move to the last part of today's wrestling crash course, and it's Rhea Ripley is just too damn good. Peeps. Okay. So let me get this straight, guys. Let's actually get something straight here. Rhea Ripley has been tearing up the scene in WWE. That makes total sense. We know this.
Yes.
We do also know that Rhea Ripley is literally like every single man's wet dream, in a sense, when it comes to the marks of professional wrestling. We also do know that almost every other wrestling fan views Rhea Ripley as some type of dominatrix. They view Rhea Ripley the same way people go ahead and view Chyna back in the late 90s. But here's what I don't get. This doesn't make any sense to me at all, okay? Explain to me, peeps. Please, explain to me. How in the hell do you travel? Okay? You travel to Detroit to sit there and meet up with this woman named Rhea Ripley. And instead of taking an actual picture with her, God, where's this country going to? My gosh. Tell me, peeps, instead of taking an actual picture, why? I repeat, why in the blue hell do you lay down on the ground? Like, guys, I'm just, look, you know what? Let me just shut up and just show you guys the picture itself, and then you guys will understand me. Who does this crap?
You want to know? You want to know what it is? Those fans are waiting for Rhea's new finishing move, the thirst trap. That's literally what they're doing right now, because that's literally all anybody seems to be doing when it comes to Rhea Ripley. There is fan fiction online about Rhea Ripley leading the Judgment Day to certain places, doing certain things. There are fans that openly fantasize about Rhea Ripley doing God knows what. There is a level of fandom for Rhea Ripley that is downright scary. And I kid you not.
Taekwon is one of them. I think Taekwon is one of them because he just sent out a comment. I want Rhea Ripley to spit on me and call me Kermit. Oh, the next comment we can't post the next comment, bro. That one will get us. That one will get us gone. We can't.
Oh boy.
Oh gosh.
But I will say that's a Hall of Fame one right there. That's a Hall of Fame comment right there. Oh boy.
Wow.
But I have to say it's different. You know, there have always been attractive women within the WWE and in wrestling.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
But I don't get it. It's she seems to spark something within the male populace that are wrestling fans, that all they want to do is get caught up in the thirst trap. I kid you not.
Peeps. And this doesn't even make it worse. What makes it worse is this. Not even a couple minutes after, she has an interview with this media team. And they ask her a question. Since the formation of you guys putting each other into the Judgment Day and your little storyline with Dominic, what has been the greatest thing that you've been able to do with Dominic, like since he's been able to go ahead and join you guys a part of the team, whatever the case may be? For purposes that are not safe for work, I will not use the actual word that she said, but you know what? I'm just gonna do the same thing that I did with Peeps. She used one word. She used exactly one 4-letter word. She used one 4-letter word that starts with F.
Oh boy.
She used a one 4-letter word that starts with F and sounds like duck.
Wow.
How?
I'm pretty sure Buddy Matthews might have something to say about that. But I digress. There you go.
Buddy is on the brink of destruction. The man is livid. Peeps, I wouldn't be able to do it if I was Buddy Murphy. If I was Buddy Matthews, Peeps, I would be if Buddy Matthews met Pillman 9mm Glock. I'd be Glock 9 Arn Anderson. I would just pull it and end it. And people are saying, oh, I know Buddy got a kick out of that. He probably laughed it off, whatever the case would be. No! I know he's not going to laugh it off because you know why? I just know that Max Caster is going to use that in another bar on Dynamite next week. Look, it's over.
He might, you know what? He might actually use it tonight on Collision. Who knows?
Don't give him ideas. We want to see Buddy Matthews healed, not going through all of this.
I'm telling you right now, it takes a certain type of stamina, mental stability, and patience to deal with today's modern wrestling fan. If you were in a long-term relationship with a wrestler in another promotion, think about that. When you think of Andrade and Charlotte, who are married, and you think of Buddy Matthews, and Rhea Ripley, who've been dating for about a year, I guess. Mm-hmm. With that, since they're in different companies and probably don't get the chance to see each other that often. So I can only imagine the stress of knowing that you have fans that are literally looking at this and getting their rocks off on this kind of thing, and going to conventions and going to autograph signings for just the mere hint at potentially seeing Rhea's boot on their chest. Think about that.
That's what makes it so weird, because peeps, the man literally said, I don't do meet and greets, but I would 100% pay for Rhea Ripley to step on me. And we have Taekwon, who literally said, I want Rhea Ripley to spit on me and call me garbage. This is what we've come to as a society, peeps.
Yes.
Look at it. Yes. It's hideous.
I'm waving the green flag. Oh boy. I tell you.
I guess it just works for them. You know, listen. Yes. I don't blame you guys. If that's what works, it's what works. I can't really, I can't do anything about it. Truth be told, I really can't.
But it also goes to show you just how popular she's connected with the fans, that they have gotten to this point where she can do no wrong in the eyes of the fans. And it's only a matter of time that WWE capitalizes on this even more so than they already are right now.
Exactly right, peeps. But you know what? From here, this marks the end of Wrestling Crash Course, ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry. There's plenty of Rhea Ripley to go ahead and go around everywhere, guys. Look, all you got to do is just pay your money to get her stepped on you. You know, that works, right? And, Taekwon, I hope and pray that your dreams do come true, because I don't know. I don't know many people that would, do what you plan on wanting to have done to you. So it's, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But with that being said, that marks the end of Wrestling Crash Course. Guys, if you want to go ahead and keep up with any type of social media news and updates that we have, all you got to do is follow us on Instagram at Saturday Afternoons _main event and on Twitter at Saturday Main. From there, we're going to go ahead and get into the first topic of today. Women's wrestling. And I don't know if that's weird. And peeps, I don't even know if you heard that, but I think lightning just struck outside my house, right?
Wow.
That should tell you enough how much this topic right here is going to be a nail biter. Because,
yes.
Oh, damn. Okay. So, for you to understand where we're at with this, we have to go back in time a year ago. A year and 3 months ago, to be exact. May 2022. Right after WrestleMania 38. Right after literally Naomi and Sasha Banks became women's tag champions. And then it was a fateful Monday afternoon where we began hearing rumblings of Sasha and Naomi walking out of the company. From there, we began to ask ourselves what the heck is going on, this, that, the third. Then Monday comes, and Michael Cole and Corey Graves completely scat on the two of them and say, oh, yes, you know what? They took their ball and went home. They're no longer with us. It's sad because at the end of the day, there are fans that paid to go ahead and see them, and they didn't want to go ahead and live up to their obligations, which we know was probably a Vince move. Not even
I don't think it
probably,
was
definitely.
probably. That was an
Definitely.
edict from Vince. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure of that.
definitely. So that happened. And in January of this year, we had Sasha Banks, who debuted at Wrestle Kingdom, went on to become NWGP Women's Champion. Then later, we have Trinity, who has gone to Impact and become Impact Knockouts World Champion. But now, WWE in particular, okay? It is August 5th, 2023. We sat here with the intentions of, after WrestleMania, we sat here and looked at Night of Champions. We sat here and looked at Money in the Bank, and we looked at a certain feud, one of which consisted of Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus. We all had the thought and the idea that this feud would have ended today. Today was the end all be all. Today was going to be the last match to end the feud, get it over with. That would be it. Then we hear this week, beginning of this week, that match got scrapped, and they're going to put it on a random episode of the show. Also, it's going on Raw. Oh, okay. Summerslam worthy. You know those two can deliver, but you know what? Okay, fine. You know, leave for a regular episode of Raw. Rhea Ripley, who is our women's world champion on the side of Raw. If I've literally just said that people are paying for her to step on them, okay? That should at least give you an idea of how over Rhea Ripley is. But we're not talking about Rhea Ripley the persona, Rhea Ripley the mouthpiece, or the one that does the actions. We're talking about Rhea Ripley, the one that can deliver the banger matches that we've seen her deliver in the past.
You mean the person that has the W word attached to them? What is it? Wrestler. That's the word you're looking for, right?
Oh yeah, definitely, peeps.
Yeah.
You're right on the money.
Yeah.
But the last time we saw a Rhea Ripley match that at least consisted of something that we enjoyed seeing, that was Backlash in Puerto Rico. And then we begin to learn that match wasn't even supposed to go that long.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason it went long was because the fans wanted to see Zelina Vega have her time in her home state, or her home country, I should say. So, you know what? Just to kind of lighten the mood, Taekwon just said, I want to tattoo Rhea Ripley's toilet on my tongue.
Wow.
You know what?
Wow. Talking about taking a hard left turn.
That lightens the mood. You see, that kind of lightens the mood. I like it.
There you go.
There you go. We appreciate it because we were getting a little gloomy here. So we needed that one. But, you know, we digress from that. Okay.
You're already at number 4.
Dodgy says at Taekwon Mills, you have issues, brother. Golly. Oh, wow. But you see, this is what we needed. So to our fans, we thank you for going ahead and kind of like lighten up the mood. But
yes,
Rhea Ripley, the wrestler, isn't having a wrestling match to defend her women's world title. And within that, the women's tag titles aren't being defended either at SummerSlam. So right now, we notice that the WWE is in a dilemma of booking their talent in a much more extensive way. They're not booking the women's division the way that we expected it. But the thing that bothers me is the fact that we jump on Twitter, peeps, and you see how the people are furious now. You see how people are mad. The people are saying, oh, but we get Asuka, Charlotte, and Bianca. We get Ronda and Shayna. When truth be told, we wanted Becky and Trish. We wanted this and that. This is not what we were hoping for. This is not what we wanted. Triple H is doing a bad job, this, that, the third. Now, peeps. I'm just saying. And I posted, I didn't even post it. I did. But within posting it, I sent it to, I believe it was Hot Rod. I don't know if I sent it to you, but I posted it on our Instagram page. And you guys, I believe it's still up, so you guys can go ahead and look at it if you want. And it was a tweet from a wrestling fan, and they said, truth be told, I understand where all this, stuff is coming from. I understand why we want equality is trending. I understand why WWE Women Deserve Better is trending. But if anything is honestly true, I don't remember what's trending being a trademark. I don't remember anybody popping out this hard and supporting women's wrestling this much when Sasha and Naomi left. When some of the wrestling fans that actually stay true to the business and know what was going on actually sat there and supported Sasha and Naomi on their decision, everybody else sat there and said, oh, you know what? Screw her. Screw them. They want to leave? Fine. Let them leave. They're going to come back eventually because they know how much they need WWE. But it was never, women's wrestling deserves better. Why now? I'm not the type to pull that card, peeps. Mm-hmm. I'll never be the type of person to pull that card. Never in a million years. And especially when it pertains to wrestling, we always try our hardest to keep politics out of wrestling. That's our always end all be all. Mm-hmm. But then you begin to sit here and then you look at AEW, which somehow, some way kind of ties into WWE. And that's the one thing they have in common, because somehow women's wrestling is somehow developing into a catastrophic, I would say, explosion on their side of the locker room. We remember when Big Swole, a prominent AEW wrestler who is, I believe, married to Cedric Alexander on the side of WWE, she went ahead and she talked about how Tony didn't want to use her. Tony thought she was dead weight. It was just all of that. You remember, peeps. Mm-hmm. And nobody talked about it. Nobody cared. This at the third. Thunder Rosa gets crapped on by Britt Baker through a reality TV show, and people already go berserk. But not only that, it seems like AEW is already taking care of their situation, because from what happened this week, it is, Lufisto, a prominent women's indie wrestler, talked about what was going on behind closed doors in AEW, especially when it pertains to the women. Now, look, guys, am I the type to sit there and go ham about what goes on in AEW wrestling? No. You guys know how much of a fan I am on Twitter when it pertains to a certain wrestler by the name of Britt Baker. You guys know I mess with Britt Baker. That's there is no ifs, ands, or maybes about that. You guys know the truth. But would I sit there and crap on Britt Baker the way that I saw that happening? Definitely not. But, peeps, when I read what I read, was I somewhat, was it just shocking to hear? That's all I want. Was it kind of shocking to hear? From the perspective of, look, we like the women's wrestling in AEW. We like where they're trying to go with it. We know what the certain problems are within it. But when you had to hear what was going on, it was kind of like a slap in the face, right? Okay, so here's what happens. Of course, I'm trying to bring up the tweet, but it's obvious that she already, deleted her account. Mm-hmm. So there's no way you're going to be sitting there and you're not going to be able to catch the tweets. But you know what? the things with Twitter, you're always able to go ahead and find things on Twitter when you get to it. So we're not
Especially
gonna
if
go
you do a screenshot, you can screenshot anything, even if it's deleted, and it'll live on. So
exactly. So we're not gonna go ahead and spaz it too much. When we know they're gonna be around there somewhere. You know what? Actually, I think we're about to find it. If anything, I think we're about to find it,
mhm.
and we just did.
Okay.
This is what she said, and I quote. Okay, she literally said, "Oh, when some girls arranged a meeting to talk about Britt Baker's crew, one of them ran to Britt to let her know. The girls that wanted to address the problem were the ones punished. Things didn't get better, they got worse. The legitimate wrestlers believe Tony doesn't give a damn about women's wrestling and feels like they are going back to the Divas era. Ask me who the expletive I am. Tell me I'm irrelevant and that I'm doing this for attention. Call me a liar. Tell me to off myself. You keep on closing your eyes and supporting human beings with expletive behavior. With the messages of support and especially this phone call I received from AW employees, nobody did the right thing." And within that, before that, I'm keeping it above 50 with you because I read this whole thing. She then went ahead and said that the people were trying to arrange a meeting. Tony, Britt, and a couple of other people were trying to arrange a meeting where they can actually go on live television to shoot on Thunder Rosa. So now on one end we have the women's division and on the other end we have All Friends Wrestling playing favorites. But here's the thing. AEW, their whole roster has stood together on this. MJF, a man of many words, but not many when it pertains to playing the face persona on social media. MJF, as we all know it, even went on to going ahead and tweeting something. And this is what MJF said literally 21 hours ago. If you listen to miserable people who've never made it in this sport, that's not exactly the brightest thing to do. Use your brain. If someone's been in professional wrestling for over a decade and you find them to be talented, but they've never truly panned out, there's a reason for it. Number one, lack of talent. Number two, difficulty to work with. And three, delusional. Just to name a few. People love to talk ill of companies and will say things like, I'm the only person who's brave enough to speak up, when in reality, you're the only person spewing BS is because you are aware deep down you aren't going to make it. So what's the harm in spewing reckless lies and trying to hurt hardworking, talent people on your way down to obscurity? We have an amazing women's locker room. Sorry, not sorry. Peeps, within everything that's happened this week, with everything that we've been trying to cover, especially when it comes to women's wrestling, I want to know your side to both of these scenarios, both of these stories, both of these prominent issues that are actually going on as we speak.
Okay. I'll address the WWE part first, and then I'll come to the AEW side, and then I'll try to bridge them together. The WWE side has always been a bone of contention for a lot of people for a very long time, going back to the Fabulous Moolah days, Misty Blue Sims, and all of the things that we've seen way back in the 80s with Wendy Richter kind of shaking up the women's division in the WWF at the time. And then, of course, the original screw job where we all know about Fabulous Moolah putting on a mask and being paid to screw Wendy Richter over. She went into Madison Square Garden as the Spider, and we know what happened. We've gone a long way from that, from the 80s, to what we did and got to see in the 90s. And from the 90s, we saw there were very good women wrestlers, but they were not presented as such. So they were changing from what we're used to seeing from the 80s and 90s into the Divas era, where everybody was dressing sexy, were wearing very revealing outfits, doing a lot of things that weren't necessarily what people look at as this is why I came to see WWF for, was to see these women doing things that have nothing to do with wrestling. That was that argument. So we fast forward from there through the early 2000s and a lot of the ECW route where that was kind of accentuated, where you did have women that could wrestle, but that's not why they were there. They were mostly there as the mouthpiece for a particular wrestler. Maybe they did eventually get involved in a match somehow, but weren't taken seriously. We fast forward past that into the 2000s, where we now know going forward that there was kind of a change, kind of a paradigm shift, that there were women wrestlers that were talented, were great in ring, but they were now starting to get the attention that they deserved. Remember the words that Stephanie McMahon used about there's going to be an evolution of women's wrestling, and long gone are the diva days. No longer are we going to have a divas championship. No more Playboy covers and no more scantily clad clothing on a pole matches. That kind of stuff is passe and is insulting to the women that were involved, that learned their traits to be wrestlers. And what we got was kind of a renaissance of in-ring work and talent. We got to see lots of really good wrestlers debut and showcase why they were in the ring to begin with. They weren't treated with kid gloves. Oh, they're just women. Let's move them to the side. No, they were in the ring wrestling and getting to the point where we had Lita and Stephanie McMahon. We know Stephanie McMahon isn't in a traditional sense a wrestler per se, but to have that match for the WWE Women's Championship main event Monday Night Raw had never happened before. And that was kind of the beginning start point for what we are starting to see now. We're seeing now wrestling in a way that is not looked at as a dirty word. We're seeing women's matches in a lot of instances being the main event of the show. And we've already had 2 WrestleManias where a women's championship match main evented one of the nights of WrestleMania. So that's where we're going on that sense. So to now hear that there is sort of a backsliding dynamic of where the women's division is today is disheartening. It's disgusting in the sense that Rhea Ripley, world champion, is not going to be on the card to wrestle at SummerSlam, which makes 0 sense to me. We have Trish, who's supposed to be taking on Becky Lynch. That match isn't going to happen. That is disheartening to me. We've had the NXT Women's Tag Team Championship literally eaten up like Pac-Man and unified with the WWE Women's Championship by Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey. And yet, are they a great dominant tag team? No, they split up a month later, using the tag team championship as a way to further a storyline, as opposed to putting those championships and making them mean something. So we're back to square one with the quote unquote importance of how important is those championships if there's no dynamic, no tag teams, no seriousness. And then you hear the stuff that's going on in the back. Table that to the side. I'll go to the AEW side now. And then at some point, I'll try to bring that in. The women's division in AEW was supposed to be kind of like the evolution of what we saw with the WWE, of people leaving WWE and then going in and showing that being part of WWE, they weren't being used and showcased. But they had enough training and were on Raw and were on SmackDown and were on NXT that when they left they would be either seasoned enough that they would get that push, that exposure in AEW, and then they would be showcased, and they would have a division that they could be proud of, and they could have great matches that were on par with what AEW was trying to do, and then bring that to the forefront and say, look, we're the alternative to the WWE. We've got a women's division. We've got great women wrestlers. We've got tag teams. We have brutal cage matches. We have anything goes, completely different than what we're seeing in the WWE. And then you hear what's going on in the back with the backstage politics and all of the rumors of certain people keeping other people down and not doing things here and not doing things that way. And we talked about the Big Swole stuff that happened and how she was gone from the company. There are certain things in the wrestling business that really upset people when you know that it's supposed to have been weeded out and we're supposed to be on a different plane. And that's supposed to be women's professional wrestling. Because the matches that I have seen over the last few years, in particular in the women's division, have been some of the most entertaining, athletic, memorable matches that I have seen in years. And the fact that we're not even talking about those matches and that attention to factions and storylines and matches, we're talking about the same mean girl backstage garbage that we've been talking about in the men's side for years and years is happening here. It is absolutely disgusting. And this goes through all walks of life, in business, when it goes through politics, and it goes through in a lot of phases in the world. We hear a lot of things where the women's, let me say the women's division, but women in general trying to do certain things, and then they have to worry about some of the things that bring them down away from getting to where they should be. It happens in sports. It's happening in wrestling. And here we are today, 2023, and we're still talking about the same things that should not be happening. And it's disheartening. It's disgusting. And in a lot of instances, it's kind of depressing because we're starting to see wrestlers that should be getting higher up on cards, should be getting more attention. We should be talking about that Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match that happened a couple of years ago that tore the house down. We should be talking about the Sasha Bankses of the world. And we should be talking about the Deonna Purrazzo's of Impact and all of the other people that are there, the Tessa Blanchards who have seemingly disappeared from the face of the earth. All of these women wrestlers that were top talents, we're not talking about them in the same way because there's that backstage part that keeps pulling them away from where they should be. It is taking the attention away from what we should be talking about, which is the in-ring work and getting that aspect over to be on par with the men in the company. That's the disheartening part of this whole entire argument.
No, you see, Daji said something here. He was like, it's because Stephanie was the only one booking the women's division. Only she knew how to book them right. The NXT women's division is amazing. Gigi Dolan, JC Chain, Valkyria, Blair Davenport, Cora Jade, Elektra Lopez, Fallon Henley, Ivy Nile, Jakara Jackson, Lash Legend, Nikita Lyons, Roxanne Perez, Stevie Turner, Sol Ruka, Thea Hale, and there's so many more. The NXT women's wrestling is on another level compared to any other company. I think WWE is powerful enough to make their women division have women-only shows and pay-per-views similar to WoW and Shimmer. Would be perfect for Stephanie to be able to do something like that, just like Triple H did with NXT, and make it their creation. Daji, you're not wrong.
Yes.
But the thing is that those who don't know history are condemned to always repeat it. They tried it. They only tried it once. WWE Evolution. Hailing from the New York Coliseum in Long Island.
Yes.
You know? That, with integrating the Mae Young's Classic within it. Having some of the superstars from the past face some of the superstars of the present, trying to give people dream matches, trying to sit out there and give people what women's wrestling should be like in that sense of taste. And I believe they wanted to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
But someone with the overall say so
Mm-hmm.
didn't allow it. Which is why at first Stephanie took her leave. With her coming back, it kind of sparked for, okay, you know what? Maybe there's gonna be some change. And then Vince came back, and then it's not that it can't happen.
Mm-hmm.
It could happen.
Yes.
We know that WWE has the power to make something like Shimmer and Wow. Something that could be even greater than those. But with Vince McMahon running the company, you really think that's possible?
Yeah. Remember, Impact came this close to doing it about 10 years ago when the Knockouts division was getting all of this attention and they were really starting to get something going. Dutch Mantel ran Impact women's division. He was the one that was booking the women's division, the Knockouts division in TNA Impact. And they were on par, very close to getting their own separate, I think it was going to be 30 minutes or 1 hour of their own show, independent of the main Impact show. And somehow, I believe it was Hogan, along with some of the other people in the company, shot it down. And then it lost all of its momentum and it just fell apart. And Impact had a very deep women's roster back then. The Beautiful People, ODB, Allie was in there, who is now the Bunny in AEW. There were a ton of really great, talented women that were working there, Gail Kim included. And they had a tremendous amount of upside that if they gave them the keys to the kingdom, so to speak, I think they would have ran with the ball. They didn't get that opportunity on a long-term basis. Now, there's still a very good women's division in Impact Wrestling right now, but it's not getting the proper attention because of the situation that Impact is in, being on a network that a lot of people either don't have or just don't know about. Exactly. But the point is, they treat women's wrestling with the respect that it deserves. And you don't hear about the same kind of bickering and backstage garbage that we've been hearing about, both with the WWE and with AEW. And that's the problem.
So here's what I'm hearing from Dodgy. He says Vince is out again for quite a while now with his health issues, and I'm not sure if you are aware, but it was Triple Regal that booked SmackDown this week, and you could tell because this week's SmackDown one of the best I've seen in months. But Dodgy, what's the use of booking the women's division well for the next couple of months? And then once McMahon is back, it goes back to chicken crap. I'm just being for real.
Yeah.
Just to it doesn't change. Hot rod. You're gonna get us canceled, buddy. Hot rod. Have mercy. Taekwon says Peeps wants strong women because he grew up with Harriet Tubman as an example. Leave it to our listeners to make us happy with some of the things they say, even though what they're doing is about to get us canceled. But
oh man,
we appreciate you guys. But yes, the world of WWE, it's just like we sit there and we look at it from the standpoint of we know who's spearheading it, we know who's causing it to happen.
Yes, and
even if there is a change for slight a second, if it's not him spearheading it, we know he's going to destroy it. So why make any use of it? So it's just like, look, Dodgy, because if it's making money to Nick Khan, we'll have to force Vince out. Best for business. You really think Nick Khan would force McMahon out when it was the exact same McMahon that got pushed out by shareholders and the board and then got put back on the board?
And then what ended up happening? Those same people that were in charge of McMahon being pushed out, they were fired. You just remember that. A lot of those board members that kind of pushed on that whole thing, well, Vince got to go out. Maybe the shareholders don't feel confident with Vince. They're not there anymore. So, yeah, I don't see that happening.
Man, it's anarchy. It's bro. This is dictatorship.
Yeah.
Nothing will ever change, man. Nothing will ever change. But when
Yes.
it comes to AEW peeps, what is the whole thing with that? Like, how do you feel about that?
I feel that there needs to be some sort of stewardship in the back. We don't know specifically how much is truth. Some of it is there. Part of the Lufisto story that you brought up, and I remember hearing about it, a lot of it stemmed from a match that happened last, I believe it was last year I think it was last year or the year before on Dark Elevation. And from what I remember hearing about, it was a trios tag team match, and there was an issue with Lufisto only being in the match for about a minute. And Ruby Soho and some other people within the match pretty much seemed to have complained that either she didn't sell enough or didn't do well enough. And the thought process behind that is she wasn't in the match long enough to really do anything. And if you watch the match, she she sold pretty well. And now we get to the whole idea of people coming from the WWE that didn't have the spots that they were getting when they were there, coming to AEW and potentially having those spots. Maybe there's a resentment that somebody else is going to come in and try to take those spots. And hence, as we said before, the backstage politics comes into play. I don't know how much is believable. I don't know how much is made up. I don't know how much is salient enough that it warrants somebody to be very, very angry to find out what's going on. The fact that this is even a story is disturbing to me in the first place. I think where we're at right now, we need to monitor this in the sense of seeing where it goes. Because I guess based on what we saw from Dynamite on Wednesday, which was the 200th episode, the fact that they've been now almost 4 years, they did 200 episodes, and the main event was Hikaru Shida winning the AEW Women's World Championship from Toni Storm. I think maybe that kind of addresses, at least on camera, some of the stuff that was going on. It was a great choice for it to happen, but I think that there may be other problems that are underneath the surface that we're not privy to. Maybe this is just the tip of the iceberg.
So, peeps, do you think that it's gonna go ahead and start to kind of divulge a little bit more? We're gonna go ahead and dig deeper into it by like the next coming weeks, or do you think this is just gonna stop for now and then kind of like carry back on in like a couple more months?
I think we will know by the next full pay-per-view, not Full Gear, which is after All In. I should say All Out is after All In. Maybe by Full Gear, which I believe is October, November. Mm-hmm. By then, if things don't change, because we did see on camera some things look like they're working a little bit in a positive direction. Willow Nightingale getting the big push, Athena in Ring of Honor getting more TV time and certain things that she's doing. There seem to be some positives there. I don't know how far it's going to get, but let's see. Hopefully it works the way it's supposed to.
Life as a wrestling fan, peeps, it's never easy.
Yeah.
But you know what? Let's just hope it, as you said, peeps, let's just hope it does go ahead and change it a little bit. Let's just hope and pray.
Yes.
Well, Dodgy's saying this. Dodgy says, I hate to say this, I would never wish death on anyone, but I can't help but wish for Vince to not make it through his surgery.
Oh, boy. Look.
You guys have the voice that we don't.
Vince McMahon will live to be 745 years old. He will be in charge. He will be in charge of the WWE. All right, and it'll be a conglomerate of Disney. And Disney will buy them out, and he will buy them out.
I was telling people this the other day. I said the only way wrestling will ever get back to being fun for us, this new generation, is if Vince dies, God forbid. Not wishing death on him, but the only way we'll see is if Vince passes away and individuals come to Raw and SmackDown, where instead of having that big 8K LED set that they have, instead of that, they go ahead and they have like a blank regular stage. And in the very center of that stage is Vince's taxidermy head. That's the only way we will believe in wanting to see new for pro wrestling. But you know what? We're pro wrestling fans.
Yes.
We're always gonna have something to complain about.
Yes.
I understand why we're complaining about this because this is big, but still, in the same sense, even if it was good, what would y'all then say? Oh, you know what? What about the other men on the main roster? Some of the women aren't even producing good matches.
Yes.
Like come on, be for real. You know, like let's be like there will always be something to complain about. This is our nature. This is what we do, guys. But Phenomenal said, I'm trying to puff on that McMahon pack by any means. Perfectly. That McMahon pack gotta be hit. You know? Dodgy D-pad says, and everyone has to slap it as they walk past.
I can't. Yeah.
That marks the end of the first half of Saturday afternoon's main event, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back, we will get into our questions, and right after our questions, we will get into the last topic of the show, which is our predictions for tonight's event, Summerslam. Stay tuned. Do not go anywhere. The second half of Saturday afternoon's main event is coming up next. Oh, God. Welcome back to the second half of Saturday's main event. I just read a comment from one of the people. I guess this is the way we're going to go ahead and start off our questions. But, guys, you already know, if you want to send in a question, all you got to do is one thing. DM us on Instagram at Saturday_main event. It'll be featured on the next episode of the show. But to start out the questions, we were going to start with Master Sean 007, but Taekwon just said something. And I understand the pun, but damn it, man, you didn't have to say it like that. Jesus, I don't know what's gonna happen when we put this up. But peeps, this is what Taekwon had to say. Wrestling fans complain more than that child that I left in the car with no AC.
There you go.
Wow.
A sip of the tea from Saturday afternoon's main event.
I digress.
What a time to get number 5 on the day, right?
Now we're what? We're literally 2 away from 100.
We are at 98.
Nice.
Yes.
Look what you're doing, Taekwon. You want to keep them coming just so we can hit 100 before SummerSlam tonight? Go ahead. Do what you gotta do, man. First and foremost, the first question comes from Master Sean 007. He says, "Greetings, gentlemen. I wanted to talk about AEW Women's Division. There's been talk about the network not only allowing one match per show, is because they look at it as violence against women. And there's more talk about Tony Khan being dismissive of the women's wrestling in general, supposedly because of the low ratings the matches generate. What are your thoughts? Should they just get rid of women's wrestling completely if they don't give it the proper attention it needs to grow and prosper?" Peeps,
you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. The silliest thing that this company could do would get rid of women's wrestling. We are in a world where the men's athletics are generating money. We know that men are doing tremendous things in all of sports, whether it's basketball, baseball, football, whatever. Women's athletics are just as important, and how it's presented is just as important. The fact that the women's wrestling side of the coin in AEW, even though it is prominent, it's not as prominent as it should be. we're not getting equal matches on shows. Sometimes we get matches where the women's match is the first match of the show, or maybe it's in the middle of the card. Maybe it's the main event, depending on the importance of it, connected to whatever storyline is there, or maybe it's a championship match and they need to put it in the main event. In some instances, you have to figure out where the match slots in. But for a company to come out and say, maybe there's an opportunity of getting rid of women's wrestling or moving it along and, keeping it to one match or whatever's the case, it's absolutely brain dead. There are so many talented women on AEW's roster. There are so many talented women in WWE's roster and in Impact's roster. MLW, New Japan, Shimmer, Evolve, etc., that we need to make sure that women's wrestling continues to get showcased in the way that it deserves. And the reason why I get passionate about this kind of stuff is because I have seen so many things in the wrestling business that would really make you just turn you off of the wrestling business. Mm-hmm. But for me, although the storylines are important, you have to have something that is connective tissue between a match and a feud and a show of why it's going to sell and make money, why you want to buy the ticket. For me, just me, and I'm pretty sure I talk for a lot of other people, the in-ring work is important to the overall concept of what you're presenting. If you don't believe what they're doing in the ring, then why is all of the other ancillary stuff happening? Why are we having vignettes and promos about this person saying this to this person, or saying something about this person's mom, or saying something about, I'm going to beat you up and do this, this, and this? If the thing that brought you to the show was the in-ring wrestling, and I have seen so many great in-ring matches of women wrestlers that have gone on and done tremendous things that don't get the attention that it deserves. This comes down to booking and importance. If you are the sole booker in AEW and your importance is, I would rather have, for every one women's match, I want to have 3 men's matches that have blood and guts and brawling and everything else, okay, fine. But if you're going to tell me that that one match that you have, that women's match, is going to be grade A quality, then you might have an argument. But there are way too many women on the roster that need to get showcased, that don't get showcased as in the light that they should, or in a way that shows that the company's backing is behind them. And then to hear the current stories that we were just talking about a few minutes ago of the backstage politics that may be involved is very disheartening. And I hope that this isn't something that is prevalent within AEW's locker room, where people have swollen heads, and that's actually trickling down into what we see in ring. Because if that's the case, then they're really doing a disservice to not only the wrestlers that are there, but to the fans that demand to see the best wrestling in the world from what they've been advertising. That has to change.
Definitely right on that. For me, if I sense, I was literally about to say this, and Dodgy just took the words right out of my mouth. He literally said it like, simple solution: go back to being a 3-hour show again. Alternate the matches between men and women's division. They need more titles: women's intercontinental, US, European titles. Like, sense things like that. Why not? Why, in that sense, if you're gonna go ahead and go that route, it would, it would make it much easier. Because why not? But then you have Taekwon, who kind of made the case there, who's like, if they can't book the titles now, then why have them add more? This is where Collision comes in. Have Collision be that other counterpart. Have Rampage be that other counterpart. If you want Dynamite to just be strictly focused on, the primary titles, have it be focused on the primary titles, which is the what? The AEW World Title, the AEW Women's World Title, and
The
the
TNT
AEW
Championship.
Yeah, TNT title. Rampage and Collision works. Perfectly fine with that. Perfectly fine with that. Speaking of Collision, really, Taekwon. Saturday night had the best Collision. I digress.
That's all going to be under one. That's going to be under one. I digress. That's all it's going to be.
Holy crap!
Think about it. It's the comments that are leading to the I digresses, and not what we're talking about. That shows you what kind of show we're having today, folks. Oh man.
Anyways, okay. Yes, if you have Rampage and you have Collision, have it be focused on the other titles. Now that I'm hearing that they're good, which is dumb, okay, completely dumb. You're gonna have CM Punk now defend his version of the world title and say that, oh yeah, we're gonna have separate titles on the show. When that can be used to elevate the TBS title, that can be used to elevate the international championship. It can be used to elevate the trios titles,
which somehow conveniently don't seem to ever get defended anymore. I mean,
exactly.
What's about that?
It can be used to elevate so many other titles. But if my case is, it can be used to elevate the women's division just even more. It doesn't have to be strictly on titles, but just elevate the women's division. But the thing is that what needs to change is that Tony's not supposed to be booking.
At least not by himself. He needs a filter. He needs the prevalent problem with AEW in general is the fact that Tony Khan is seemingly end-all be-all booker. Now, I'm sure the Bucks and Omega and CM Punk and others have some kind of say-so and certain creative control over what they're doing. But let's really be honest about this. It stops and starts with Tony Khan booking 3 shows over the span of a week, which leads to 5 hours of content. Exactly. Right. That's just the AEW side. We're not even talking about the Ring of Honor side. And then you got to deal with the pay-per-view side of it. Ring of Honor does their pay-per-views at once a month. AEW does their pay-per-views every 3 months. So you get that quarterly, once every 3 or 4 months, and then you get yourself, the payoff of the stories, which gives you a chance to build up storylines, etc. The problem is when you have that kind of tight-lipped group around the booking, you burn yourself out. And that's literally what can happen. We've seen that. We've talked about it on this show, not that recently. It hasn't been that long ago that we talked about, WWE is burning itself out. They're burning both sides. They're burning the candle at both ends. And what ends up happening is your product suffers. So you got to have fresher ideas that make sense. I am of the mindset that Tony Khan is not booking Collision with, if he is, he's got a whole lot of help because he is not doing it. Dynamite and Collision couldn't be farther from each other as far as pacing, interest, booking, quality of matches. Completely different shows. So you couldn't explain to me in a phone booth the difference between Dynamite and Collision, and the difference being, well, Tony Khan wants to book Dynamite differently than he's booking Collision. Maybe he is. I'm not convinced that it's all on Tony Khan in that sense. So I think going forward, there has to be some kind of change, or they're going to burn themselves out.
There we go. Perfectly put by the Peep Snake. Thank you, Master Sean 007, for the question. Yes. Pretty complex for us to go ahead and answer, but I hope we answered it to the best of your abilities.
Yes.
Next one comes from Dr. Thugonomics. He says, day 1082. No tag champs, but he's in the main event at Wembley for the title. Osh, why is this a Cody Rhodes type dilemma? Peeps, So how do we give the man hope, but he still wants to be giving himself false hope? I don't get it anymore. Like, don't we try enough for these fans?
We're trying our best. And I think what I see is the fact remains that if we're having the conversation of Adam Cole finally getting in the main event of a major pay-per-view, and not just the fact that it's a main event, it's not some kind of a tag team match, it's not some kind of a gimmick, blood and guts or anything like that. It is the main event, a world heavyweight championship match. And he is going to be, along with MJF, the star of the show. And I think the fact remains that it's taken a year and a half to get to this point due to no fault of his own. He's just had the unfortunate misfortune. I don't want to sound redundant, but he's had the misfortune of being injured. A couple concussions, a knee issue. He's had all kinds of things happen. And these are the kinds of things that you finally see. He's healthy, he's right, and now we can get to see and showcase Adam Cole in the light that he deserves, which is in the main event. Will he win the AEW World Championship at All In? Probably not. But I tell you one thing, the fact that it's prominent enough that he's in that slot, and it has nothing to do with the Elite, it has nothing to do with the Bucks getting in here or Omega getting in here or doing anything like that. This is solely an MJF, Adam Cole production. This is going to be something that I think we can all sink our teeth into. That's where I'm happiest at.
Makes sense.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you're still there worrying about Adam Cole, but he doesn't have gold, et cetera, just relax and enjoy the ride into the destination that they go. Because at some point he's going to have some kind of gold on him. We just don't know what.
You got a point on that, peeps. You got a point on that. Last but not least, longer than Isaiah, he says, so Cody Rhodes bleeding all over Detroit tonight? Let's save it for our predictions, right? Okay, let's do that. Ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of the questions for Saturday afternoon's main event. Of course, we enjoy the questions. We thank you guys for going ahead and sending them in. You know that if you want to send in a question, all you got to do is one thing and one thing only. DM us on Instagram at Saturday afternoons_main event, and it will be featured on the next episode of the show, guaranteed. Well, with that being said, we go into the last part of our show today, and I wanted to switch it up. We usually have music playing in the back. Of course, if you remember this theme song, this has to be from one of my most favorite SummerSlams of the modern era.
Did you say favorite?
You said favorite. Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
There you go.
Yeah. SummerSlam 2008. Of course, you would know that was the main event with the Hell in a Cell match of Undertaker versus Edge. Batista versus John Cena, in which Batista kind of broke Cena's neck. Of course, got further implemented into a storyline around 2010 for their match at WrestleMania 26 for the WWE title. Listen, goes down in history as one of my favorite SummerSlams, especially even with HBK versus Chris Jericho in that whole feud with his wife. But oh my god, I'm salivating. Take me back to that. I enjoyed that. Like, geez, but you know what? It's not about that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's about tonight. Tonight, Detroit, Ford Field gets a WWE event for the first time since 2007. Literally 16 years in the making, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
SummerSlam is back, and it's only in Detroit. You'll catch it tonight on Peacock. Without further ado, what we're going to go ahead and get into is our predictions.
Yes.
Our predictions are slated, as you always know, to go ahead and consist of only W's. We haven't folded yet. We don't plan on messing up yet. So look, let's go ahead and get into it. Right, peeps?
Yes, let's do so.
No problem. Let's do just that. Okay, so here it is right here. We have it slated we see it from top to bottom. Let's go ahead and get started at the bottom. SummerSlam Battle Royal. This is without question, okay? One of the most absurd types of ways to go ahead and book a Battle Royal. But I will say now that, peeps, if it's not LA Knight, I don't know who else. I'll just leave it at that. So put me down for LA Knight being the winner of this Battle Royal.
And that's exactly what I'm doing. I just wrote it in, LA Knight. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Because if he doesn't win this, I mean, he had a strong win last night on SmackDown.
I mean, he had a strong showing before Money in the Bank too, peeps.
Yes.
For real, you know?
That is true.
The world we live in, right, peeps?
Yes, yes. And it's a battle royal. It's not like, oh, he's going to go and win the Intercontinental Championship. No, they're not doing that right now. I think they're building towards something with the United States Championship at some point. So let's see.
Well, peeps, all we got to do is just sit there and wait. Honestly, the next one, well, it's funny. Talk about really? LaQuavius Antoine Knight. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
Everybody has LA Knight. Everybody's on the gravy train. We appreciate it. We are not suppressing that. We hope that it's LA Knight. Let's go ahead and lock it in. We got one of one. Let's go ahead and see if we're going to be going 1 for 2 with the next match. Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler. Peeps, in this way, shape, and form, you already know how I'm going to be going because I've been saying this from the jump since they talked about this. And from the moment Shayna even went ahead and beat the holy hell out of Ronda, it is going to be Shayna. It is not going to be anything else. We know that Ronda Rousey's almost out the door. We know that Shayna Baszler has been slated many times to be good on the women's division. It is the beginning of that. Shayna Baszler for the win, submitting Ronda Rousey.
Yes, in an MMA match. So I don't know if they're going to keep them in the ring or are they going to bring the MMA fight pit that they use in NXT, the one that Timothy Thatcher had with Matt Riddle, that big one. I don't know if they're going to do it that way, but if they did, that would be an ominous looking picture. If you're looking at it as far as the optics on television and how that would look good. I don't think they are, but let's see. But if it goes anywhere other than Baszler winning this match, they have done an injustice to Shayna Baszler.
I'm hearing there's an octagon style ring, so peeps, there's so much to be expecting right now. I honestly can't tell you enough.
Yes.
But from there, we look like we're going 2 for 2. To go 3 for 3, Logan Paul versus Ricochet. I got Logan Paul.
You got Logan Paul.
My
yeah. So let me write you one with that. You've got Logan Paul winning, and I think it makes sense just due to the fact that Ricochet needs the win, I think, because let's really be honest. Ricochet has been kind of carrying this feud. This is funny because Logan Paul, with all of the social media stuff and the promos that he's been cutting and everything else, you think he was the one carrying it. But I think the surprise of this is Ricochet is carrying it on the other end with some of the stuff that he's doing. And I think what really brought it in was Logan Paul mentioning Samantha Irvin, who is the ring announcer, and saying, well, it'd be nice you're going to be at ringside to watch, me beat your fiance, blah, 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 blah. Uh-oh, here we go.
That's the heel for you. That's the heel for you.
Yes. So I think that just because of that, I think Ricochet is going to win. Our favorite Irish wrestler, Rick O'Shea. There you go.
All we got to do is just wait and see, peeps. That's all we can really do. But from there, we have the Intercontinental title match. Volta.
Yes.
Known to many as Gunther. Known to Vince McMahon as Gunther Stark.
Oh, Lord.
the
Don't
IC
get me
champion
started,
versus the Scottish Warrior, Drew McIntyre. If there's any moment where I sit there and I say to myself, you want to have Gunther lose in suppressing fashion, knowing that he's been having a long reign at IC champion, now's a good time with Drew having to beat him. I sit there and I look at it like that, but then I sit there and I'm like, what better way to build credibility? You can have Drew beat him later on. It will not be the end of it, but I honestly don't see Drew doing it coming back like this. So for me, pencil in Gunther. That's how I'm seeing it. That's how I'm seeing it.
Okay. I have Walter winning for the second time this year, in a year, against Drew. I think the mindset is Drew McIntyre is finally back. So if you're going to say he's back and then you're going to have him lose, doesn't make any sense, but it does in the grand scheme, because the grand scheme is this is a historic, singular Intercontinental Championship run. And I firmly believe that not only is he going to surpass the Honky Tonk Man's reign as Intercontinental Champion, I think he's going to smash it. Just so that there is absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts about it, that it's going to be surpassed by a large enough margin. So that's what I think is the end game for Walter and the Intercontinental Championship. And that's the reason why I haven't penciled in the win. Will it be a great match? I have a feeling that this is going to be the sleeper match of the show. I never thought that the match that they had at WrestleMania, which also included Sheamus, was going to be as great of a match as it was. This match has a chance to steal the show. Definitely. So keep that in mind.
Definitely. Dodgy says Gunther's winning because of help. Then on Raw, Drew will introduce Gallus as his backup for their rematch, Gallus versus Imperium.
That would be interesting. That would be interesting.
Because
I think Gallus is ready for a main roster run.
Oh, definitely.
So yeah, that would be good. Gallus boys on top. There you go.
There we go, peeps.
Yes.
From there, triple threat match, women's championship, Asuka, Bianca, Charlotte. I said earlier, Bianca joining the Hurt Business. Bianca goes ahead and wins the title, becomes heel. That's what I said.
Yeah.
But then we have to issue in the other factor in this match. And that's Miss Money in the Bank, Io Sky. Peeps. Asuka's retaining.
Okay.
Io Sky's cashing in.
Okay. So you have Asuka, and then I'll put in parentheses Io, and I'll put a $sign there. So that's what you have. So you have a cashing it in and winning the championship.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I feel like the way that it's going to happen is that Io's going to go ahead, Io's going to cash in. Bayley's going to try to coster it. But then out comes Shotzi. Has Bayley run away. Leaves Io Sky to go ahead and hit her moonsault off the top. And that will go ahead and end with her going ahead and beating Asuka. See, here's Dodgy, look, I understand you, but look, Taekwon says it well. Asuka wins, then you can spin off Bianca versus Charlotte as its own feud. That could be it for now.
True.
Because if we're just being for real, we are still talking about revisiting Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair. Why have it with Bianca having the title right now? Nope.
True.
That can be moved. That can be moved for the Rumble and probably have Bianca win it and challenge Rhea. That can be it. So we don't need her to have a title. So right now, if Asuka wins, Io Sky, perfectly like that. Dodgy says, if my girl Bianca don't win, I'm gonna smash my house up. Io Sky will cash in, but Bayley will mess it up. Listen, you have a reason to think that way. I don't blame you. You have a reason to think that way.
Okay.
And Taekwon says, I feel like Bianca after 400 days is too soon to win it back. See, that's what I'm saying. So Honestly, yeah. I got Io, and then like having it like getting cashed in like that. That's just me.
Which makes sense. Now, the funny thing about this whole deal is the fact that they continue to harp on the fact that Charlotte is going for number 15. Is she going to be the 15-time champ?
Please, are we gonna start using the Steiner math with the 5% chances again? Please don't.
Here's the crazy thing, and I want to ask this question. Charlotte isn't winning this. That's not even going to be the case. But here's my question: would you have Charlotte win the 15-time world champion, get that 15th championship reign in, only for her to lose to Io Sky that same night? I mean, it's obvious that the WWE seems to be wanting to go this route of making sure that Charlotte gets all of these title reigns in. Because most of her title reigns, I think she's been on the main roster of WWE, I think now, what 8 years? Something like that? And all of her championship reigns don't add up to more than a few months. So obviously, the reigns don't mean as much as the chase and the notch on the belt mark of being 13 time, 14 time, 15 time. That's what I think Charlotte's legacy is going to be. But do you have her win the championship only to lose it the same day? Because then they can fall into the whole, I was robbed, I can't believe it. They had to do all of these things against why Charlotte is the champion. Everybody's jealous of me and my success, blah, 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 blah. They can do that also. True. So,
you know what? Let's give it a chance. Let's give it a chance. So yes. We'll see. But I guess both of us kind of see it like, Marvel in the sense of Io cashing it in. That's what we're seeing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll see, peeps. We'll see. From there, the match that Long Island Isaiah says is going to be a bloodbath, and I believe it's going to be a bloodbath as well. It is going to be the blade job of the modern era. This right here, ladies and gentlemen, is going to consume so many ketchup and blood packs that I believe McDonald's will be out of them as much as they have a broken ice cream machine.
Sponsored in part by Heinz.
Have mercy.
There you go.
But if it's going to come down to who wins, ladies and gentlemen, a battered, a bruised, and a bloody Cody Rhodes will come out of this feud on top.
Yes.
Pencil me in for that. Oh, gosh.
From Gallus.
I digress.
Oh,
I digress. Why? What?
In any event, let's move on from that.
100. We're at 100.
Yes.
Look what it took, Taekwon, bro.
Yes, we are now at 100.
Oh God.
Okay, let's get back to the prediction.
Yes.
And based on what we've seen, this is going to go in the direction of what we think, which is Cody winning. Everybody's going to be bleeding. There's going to be broken tables. There's going to be broken chairs. There's going to be the steel steps, maybe a cowbell. Who knows what else is going to happen? Mm-hmm. But there's no gimmick attached to it. It's just a fight. Mm-hmm. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to allow each other, the referees, no one's going to get counted out or disqualified or anything. I think that they're going to allow them to just beat the hell out of each other because of the importance of the match.
Yeah.
Cody's going to win somehow, some way. And there's going to be a lot of busted up furniture and a lot of broken tables. And it's going to be what we expect it to be, which is just as good as the first two matches that they've had. Mm-hmm. It's going to be violent. It's not going to be a quick 3-4 minute match. And although that's the case, I would not be surprised if this Cody match, if it's not the first match, it's within the first 3 matches. I wouldn't be surprised.
We'll see, peeps. We'll see.
Yeah.
Because I still kind of have this being like, somewhat of like, like close to being the main event, but not really the main event. So we'll see. We'll see.
Because remember, some of these matches you're going to have to space out based on the emotional outputting of the fans are going to do that, and then juxtapose that with whatever match is the bridge match between this Cody and Brock, and then you're going to have a match in between that's going to bring the fans down some. And then hurry them into whatever the next match is.
So that's what it's going to be. That's what we see it as. Okay.
Yes.
Well, from there, we have the second to last match. The singles match for the World Heavyweight title. Finn Balor, Seth Rollins. 7 years in the making. Peeps, I think we both know how this is going to end. Pencil me in. Finn Balor wins the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yes. I have a feeling that that's going to be the case. And now you also have that dynamic of Damian Priest. He's got the Money in the Bank briefcase. He might just cash in. Who knows? Who's to say that Seth doesn't win, and then because of what happened in that match, he comes in and cashes and beats Seth? Because there are a lot of components and moving parts here. We have what Finn at SummerSlam, we've talked about that, when winning the Universal Championship by beating Seth at SummerSlam in Brooklyn all those years ago. So having him win the championship at SummerSlam would be perfect. At the same time, we have the dynamic of Seth being the world champion, knowing that the way that this is going, his championship matches or his matches in general aren't sustainable in the sense that it seems like as great as his matches are, he's over, even more so because of the presentation. And I think if he lost the championship, it would not hurt him in the least. And then you could have him chase again. Would it be the case? I could see him losing and then having either Damian Priest cash in or something along those lines. I just think, though, that Finn is the guy that this has to be his time to legitimize the Judgment Day and make sure this is all going the way it's supposed to.
Exactly right. So that's why we both feel it's Finn. It could be the implementation of Damian Priest cashing in. Who knows? That's just me. Yes. Now, last but not least, the main event for tonight. Tribal Combat, they call it.
Yes.
The Universal title is on the line. And Roman Reigns' tribal necklace and the title of being called Tribal Chief is on the line as well.
Yes.
I've been saying this for weeks. Now's the time for me to lock it in. Roman Reigns retains his championship and a title of being called Tribal Chief. And the other counterpart, the other twin, Jimmy Uso, who was actually alluded to coming back by Paul Heyman, who mentioned him not being seen for a couple of weeks. He will be back tonight. And he will cost his brother the title.
So you think there was a little bit of foreshadowing in his case? Just a little bit.
Yes. And now I see it coming true. It's coming into fruition well, peeps. So lock it in for me. That's what I see. Peeps, how about yourself?
I would not be surprised if that was something that works, because they're going to build out main event Jey Uso as a singles opponent. And he's going to, if they're going to literally say the Usos as a tag team are done, we're now moving into the next phase, which is them being the singles wrestlers, the singles competitors that they can be. Those two right now, that's the best way to do it. And then you're going to have a built-in match where Jay is going against Jimmy. Roman can now stand to the side while he then entertains another opponent that can go after his championship in between the bloodline. Because remember, the bloodline thing with Roman isn't going to go straight through the year with him every week doing something bloodline related. Because there are other opponents within this dynamic that are going to want to get a championship shot. And we've got Payback coming up. You've also got Survivor Series later on. You've got all of these other pay-per-views that are coming, premium live events that you're going to have to go ahead and dictate. He's going to have another opponent in between the bloodline opponents that we know about. And this is going to be one way to do it. So I think it's safe to say we both have Roman penciled in. We'll see what happens from there.
Most definitely. From here, Dodgy says this will end in a non-contest. Jay will have the match won, and Solo will take him out. Then when Reigns goes for the pin, Solo will smash him as well.
And I think Solo is still going to be the wild card in this because as I've coined this phrase, Solo's gonna solo, and that's exactly what he's going to do. Solo is going to do whatever it takes. Yes.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this marks the end to our predictions, and this marks the end to Saturday afternoon's main event. Tonight is the night. In literally 6 hours,
yes,
SummerSlam will begin. We have already heard that there are chances that Ricochet and Logan Paul will start off the show. Due to the fact that Logan has to travel all the way to Dallas to see his brother Jake Paul knock out Nate Diaz. So there is that too. So that's the counterpart to it. And I'm okay with it. I'm fine with it. I don't mind. That's a perfect way to start off SummerSlam. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, the show starts in 6 hours. Be prepared. Be ready. Get your popcorn. Get your iced tea, because I know that's what peeps will be doing. I will attempt to do the same myself. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this marks the end to today's show. We'll see you next week for episode 6, which will be called The Aftermath of SummerSlam. We will cover everything from A to Z, and we will get into doing what we do best on Saturday afternoon's main event, which is giving you laughs, good times, and all the wrestling news possible. So with that being said, on this episode of Saturday afternoon's main event, I, the Phenomenal One,
and I, the Peach Nate. Just remember, we came,
we saw,
and in the words of the King of the Hill, Paul Heyman, we conquered.
We conquered, ladies and gentlemen. See you next week for episode 6. It's the Phenomenal One. It's the Peeps Nate. It's Saturday.
And it's Tony Schiavone. We gotta go, fans. See you next week.
See you next week, guys. Peace, love, farewell.